Welcome back to Falling Forward. Got Justin Jett in the shotgun seat. How you doing, Justin?
Good, man. It's good to see
I'm glad
you.
You came all the way down from Indiana.
Yep, traveling through, heading to Eastern Kentucky. I'm gonna spend a week out here doing a little banjo picking. I'm taking some classes over at Cohen Creek Mountain School. So
what's repeat that again? Cohen Creek.
Cohen Creek.
Cohen Creek.
Mm-hmm.
I saw where they were doing some stuff over there, and Jeremy Marshall from the band Hollerhead's going to be over there, and I don't know if I think he's going for the songwriting part of it, and I'm not sure if they do it all together or what, but he was just talking about going out there.
Let me see that cut. What kind of cut?
This is a V cut. That's a V cut. This is the straight cut. I always go with the V.
I've never had a V, so let's try something new.
Yep. Put it on the other side.
There it is, upside down.
This is, we're doing a couple cigars as we traditionally do. This one is Macanudo Inspirado, the black series. This one is a dark Maduro. And then you've got...
I got the Charter Oak. It's you're saying it's supposed to be a blend, right?
It's like a Connecticut. You're gonna you'll cut that in off there.
Yeah.
Yeah, off the flat cut. It is hot out here in Kentucky. It is hotter than a $2 pistol.
This, what year is this again? This truck?
This is a 1975.
Okay, well, they don't have air in it currently. There's no AC.
No AC, and also, this thing got so hot on the way over here, pulled in the parking lot, and the radiator hose blew. So I'm gonna have to address that after the show at some point. But Justin, you're down here. We met here at the Kentucky Music Hall of Fame in Mount Vernon, Kentucky, sitting out in the parking lot. And Jessica Blankenship, if you look, I interviewed her previously on the show.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I'll have to go back and look at it.
She's the executive director of this Kentucky Music Hall of Fame. So we got her permission to come out here and do all this. And then make sure you check out Justin's stuff. He's going to be recording some things inside. Yeah. Tell everybody about your podcast and kind of like some things you got going on.
Okay. Well, basically the short and skinny of it is, when COVID hit, I, like a lot of people, were just kind of bored, stuck at home. I was already working on a podcast through my job, work, which I do trapping and taxidermy. So I was like, well, let's do one about music because I love music. And I was already friends with a couple people that are in the industry, and called it the Coyote Radio Show and Podcast because I do taxidermy and the coyote fitting.
Yep.
And I was already friends with Sierra Farrell, so she was my first guest. It was a terrible episode on my behalf, as far as I didn't know what I was doing, but people kind of at least gave me a shot just because it was her that was on it, because everyone loves Sierra. She has such a timeless voice. But from there, I'm approaching 150 episodes. Wow. And running around doing festivals and just, all things music.
Isn't that the way it goes though, with stuff that you just kind of dive into it? You don't know kind of what you're doing, and eventually you come up with your own way to do something, and then other people look at that and base what they're doing off of that.
Yeah, totally. I feel like, and I've always been really bad on anything, whether it's me trying to learn a banjo or learn photography or whatever I'm trying to do or accomplish. I'll sit there and analyze it too long or read about it too long. And when you really start learning it is when you just go out and attempt to do it. Even if you do it wrong, you're going to learn so much in that process. So that's kind of my approach to it nowadays. But earlier on, I was terrible with that. I was procrastinating so much to where I was like, well, I'm not getting anything done because I'm so worried about being perfect the first time out, So that never, but.
Yeah, that's it's just important to start. It's important to have during COVID, a lot of these things were starting up. You look at some of the major podcasts that kind of took off were kind of, spurred on by that same event, global event, and some really great things have come from it. Look at, and also being able to document somebody's career as a podcaster. Mm-hmm. Like Sierra Farrell, for example. Back then, she was gaining some momentum, but nothing like what she's got now.
Yeah.
Major career, Grammy Award winner. It's amazing to see it.
Yeah, it's funny to go back and look at that episode too. But yeah, it's funny what can come of all this. Do it long enough and just see it change and watch it grow.
With your podcast, you have now you started up a music festival as well, and the podcast came first, correct?
Yeah.
How did those two things kind of line up together?
Well, the podcast, like I said, I just start getting to know people, talk to people, get some sponsors, and a great honky tonk place that you know of, Duke's Indy in Indianapolis. They sponsor the podcast, so through them I've become really good friends, and I'm there weekly, and you just meet all the bands and the people behind the scenes. And I just kind of was talking out my ass one time and just about, man, I'd love to have a music festival, and the owner of Duke's, Patrick, was like, well, let's do it. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah. Because it sounds like a good idea. I went to school for, finance and this, that, and the other, and I'm all about taking a risk if it's, seems worthy. And I was like, all right. So we tried it. So last year was the first attempt. And not everyone showed up. We had plenty of space left, but it was a success all around. The feedback from managers, the bands, the fan goers, the whole deal was incredible. I was blown away with the response. So we're doing it again this year. We got 2.5 days, over 37 bands. We got late night. The whole idea is to keep it intimate.
Mm-hmm.
So at no one time, we're only probably selling 600 to 700 tickets max. And by the time you figure in volunteers, guests, the place will never have over 1,000 people on the grounds at once between the two stages. So there's not going to be a bad seat. There's no long line for anything. We're running shuttles. It's a pretty easy area to navigate. And it's a bring your own beer event.
Okay.
I'm glad you're going to be on this year.
I'm glad you invited me, man. I was looking at that lineup last year. It was incredible. It looked like a great place, and I'm excited about getting up there.
Yeah, it's August 7th, 8th, and 9th. So mark your calendars.
So where can they get the tickets if they're watching this? Because I'm going to upload this tonight.
Yeah, I should probably mention the name of the festival.
Yeah.
It's called Pickin in the Backwoods. There's no G on Pickin, but pickininthebackwoods.com. It's linked all through my podcast stuff, Coyote Radio Show and podcast, or there, all over social media and whatnot. So
awesome. Go get your tickets. It's a great festival.
We're about a little over halfway sold out on camping. So if you're wanting to camp, because we do cut that off at a certain number. Other than that, it's looking good.
Man, I find that some of these smaller festivals, and even I consider Laurel Cove Music Festival kind of a smaller size festival, and they only sell 1,500. But those are the times where you get the best experiences, because you can mingle with the artists, you can hang out, you get to know people.
Well, that's how I met you.
Yeah.
That without that festival, I probably wouldn't have, just connections like that. It's cool.
Yeah, I was playing that year, and Sierra Farrell was playing, and that we were all hanging out in the green room area.
Yeah.
And this girl that I was dating at the time, Sierra asked if she would help her zip something up at her on her outfit that she was putting on, to go on the stage.
Yeah.
So they kind of disappeared for a while, but those kind of experiences are great, man. You never forget that. And then there's so many other people at these smaller festivals you get to know, and then they take off and they have an amazing career, and you gain a friend that and just to see those different people take off, it does something to you, knowing that maybe some small little thing that you advertise, or some little thing that maybe it led to something big in their life, a door opening or whatever.
Exactly. And it's cool, and even if not, I love the idea of finding an artist that no one else really knows about or something, but just one little viral TikTok video, they could be on top of the world or something silly like that. But there's just so much talent out there that doesn't show up on people's radar because they're not on mainstream radio or this or that. It's just so much, especially down here in Kentucky. Historically, this place has put out the best music ever, in my opinion. I mean, Texas people might argue that red dirt country down there and the Texas circuits in Austin and all that, but as far as like Appalachia, Eastern Kentucky, like it's hard to beat what this state has produced. I mean, it's incredible.
There's definitely a connection between it all, especially with Kentucky and Texas. There's a connection there. It goes all the way back, even with settling the area and stuff like that. Like Kentuckians left here and went to Texas and through Tennessee, like that pipeline there. And you wonder kind of what influences musically were brought with them to Texas. And then, you got the other influence from Spanish music came up through Mexico, also German immigrants that ended up settling out there, and people from Eastern Europe.
Yeah.
You get a lot of that influence, and the two collided. But I just find that kind of stuff so interesting. But Kentucky has always been a place for music. It came over from Europe, and the UK area. That's one thing that I've been
British Isles.
Been working on, like getting all that, taking the music back to them. So
yeah,
it came over here hundreds of years ago and became what we know as Kentucky bluegrass music and folk music, and just a kind of its own genre in a way. Like, and then taking that back to the people over there has been fun to watch.
Yeah, and it's interesting the trends that are happening now, and who knows what it's going to be like in 50 years,
I know.
And where it's going to go and what inspirations are pulled from different cultures and whatnot. But yeah, sometimes I get be like a little bit of a history nut with some of that stuff and just watching how it moved throughout the region.
It's cool too to know that, as a podcaster, and you not being afraid to start your own festival, Duke's taking a chance. All these things are historic moves in the long run. Looking back, when people are like, what happened during that time period that was so special? And they will find these kind of things that are kind of popping off. And
yeah,
there's kids that aren't even born right now that will watch these kind of shows and be inspired by them and become the next big thing, 50 years from now or whatever. So you had mentioned that you got into taxidermy, and you kind of named, because I'd seen some pictures of you like holding up a coyote or whatnot, and how did you get into all that?
So basically, not just the taxidermy we do at our shop, is we also sell trapping supplies, and we go out. We have a YouTube channel called Who's Your Trapper Outdoors.
Okay.
And it's me, my father-in-law, and my brother-in-law. We'll travel to different states or different areas and spend a week or two out trying to catch predators. Here recently, the past couple of years, we've been going to Texas, up in the Panhandle, and trapping coyotes. And we usually go there when the owners of the property have all these cattle, and when the heifers are dropping calves, they have a really bad problem with the coyotes just coming in and wreaking havoc on the babies. So we're there you won't get them all, but you just basically have to thin them out, and it's kind of a management deal to help. And it helps them. They give us a place to stay. We stay in the cowboy bunks, and it's fun. It helps them. We get a show out of it, and it's just a great time to be outdoors. So, but how I got into it, though, to answer your question, was in high school. I was working at a trucking facility through my parents, and the owner of the place was fed up with these beavers that were flooding the parking lot, so the trucks couldn't get out. And she was like, I'll pay someone $200 to get rid of these things. And I'm like,
well, we kind of overheated the phone sitting on the dashboard. And
yeah, we should probably almost shelter it now before it heats up. Yeah, it's definitely a hot day.
Like a cold jug of water next to it or something.
Yeah, it's the hottest day of the year, and if you had to ask me, I wouldn't. But it worked out. We took a break. We went to the museum here, checked out the Hall of Fame.
Got a couple new stickers.
Yeah.
This one's here during the interview. This is this podcast, the Coyote Radio Show and podcast, and then we got a brand new one we stuck in here from the Kentucky Music Hall of Fame. But
if you guys are ever down here, definitely check it out. There's a lot in there to see.
Did you have a favorite thing you saw in there?
Yeah, I don't know. I can't just pick one, but I did like the Loretta Lynn dress that you pointed out. They had little Myrtle Travis stuff in there. I love that folk record they have that's shown. It's like a must-have in the collection, but I don't know if there was any significance of that, if it was like the first pressing or anything wild as far as, but
Like that
anything banjo, the J.D. Crow flat top banjo he had in there, that Gibson was nice.
That Keith Whitley shirt.
Keith Whitley, that isn't that shirt kind of, I saw an ad. Aren't they
thinking-
calling it the Whitley? And it's
Yeah.
a shirt that's striped like that and people are buying.
Yeah, it's like the vintage. It's kind of a copy of that one, the
Yeah.
original, but that's
Yeah.
the original. And it seemed like I've seen like some folks around music festivals wearing that shirt.
Yeah. Who wouldn't want to be like Keith Whitley, you know? Like,
And they got a really cool gift shop in there. A lot of cool variety of gifts. If you come down anywhere on 75 South, if you see the Mount Vernon exit before you get to Berea, if you're going north, stop by Kentucky Music Hall of Fame. Ask to talk to Jessica. Tell her we sent you.
yep. Thank you, Jessica, if you're seeing this, for hooking us up and getting us in there and do some filming.
They were also, Kentucky Music Hall of Fame were also sponsors of For the Love of Appalachia, the nonprofit that me and Cat Deeds formed up, and it's sending Appalachian artists to the UK to play because they absolutely love our stuff over there. And so keep track of that too. Kentucky Music Hall of Fame, For the Love of Appalachia. These are all things that, we're trying our best to, make some kind of impact in the future. Like even these podcasts and interviews we do, it's like it all kind of works together, and we need your support to make it happen. So
Yeah. This day and age, everything's at everyone's fingertips and distractions are all over the place. It's easy to just go to one thing after the next. So keeping this kind of music and culture and community together just by talking about it is a big deal. So
yeah.
But yeah, before we took our break, we were talking about how I got into taxidermy and trapping and stuff, and I was working for a lady, like I was saying, and the beavers were just flooding the parking lot. It was terrible, and she was so fed up because she couldn't get trucks out sometimes. And she's like, I'll pay $200 for someone to get rid of these things. I'm like, I just started dating a girl, now my wife, Andrea. Her dad owns this shop. He started a business when he's 18 years old. He's 68 now.
Wow.
And he started this business, and when he first started, it was just buying and selling fur, but it developed and changed over the years. But yeah, I went in there, gave me a little crash course. I watched a video, came back, gave me a couple supplies, and I went out and I ended up catching 2 beavers, and then I was hooked. I was like, that was a lot of fun, made a little bit of money, and I helped some people out. It was pretty cool.
Are a lot of those hides, are they going for making hats?
Now, the beaver market for hatters are pretty decent right now. It's changed a lot over the years. There was a big fur crash late 80s, and that changed everything, and it's never been the same since. But there has been a little bit of a resurgence with beaver hides in general because of how popular the hit Yellowstone show is.
Okay.
Everybody wants a cowboy hat. A big country star's got a certain hat or something that's already there, but then you tie in this, make a show, and I guess it drove the market up a little bit. So it's nice, but no one's getting rich on it. You're losing money if you're trying to go trap fur for money. You're losing money. I mean, by the time expenses, gas, or to catch enough quantity of anything, you're gonna have to go on a serious trip. So more or less these days, it's more nuisance and animal control work, and kind of just hobbyists to go out and learn the trade and stuff that maybe their grandparents did it or whatever. But it's cool. I really enjoy it. So
One thing when I used to hunt, I don't really hunt anymore, but when I did, a buddy of mine told me that every animal has enough brains to tan its own hide.
yeah, brain tanning.
Yeah. And so I learned how to do that with a deer, and I would I'd brain tan it, I'd stretch it out on the barn, let it, but it always turned out like hard as a rock. The way that I did it, and it's like it wasn't the right way, but I figured it was. I try not to waste too much of the animal. If I ate the meat, I tried to use like whatever I could, to kind of honor the animal, and that's one reason I stopped, was because I don't know, my kids didn't really like the flavor of the meat.
Mm-hmm.
And
so if you're not eating it, what's the point of going out and
and I was turning it into basically turning an entire deer into venison jerky, and then they would eat that. It tastes like something else,
some of that jalapeno cheddar, like, oh man, some of those sausage wraps are so good.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, I've been around it long enough to where, like, I'm not really a trophy hunter. If it's a big deer, great. If not, oh well, it's either probably tastes better if it's younger anyway.
Yeah,
I like to utilize every aspect of anything that is harvested. So whether it be the hide, or either sell it or make garments out of it and tan it, donated antlers, there's all kinds of stuff you can do, to make it. But
do you have what do you got coming up in the future, man? Like we talked about your podcast and your hunting, taxidermy, the music festival. We've got immediately you get the festival coming up, but do you have anything like after that? Like, kind of what's next on your agenda?
Right now is just getting to the festival and getting through it. It's a lot of work, as you've seen a lot of how people do these things behind the scenes. But once I get through that, we'll be heading into the fall, and that is when it's more of a busier time for me at work, being in the outdoor community. So I'll probably step back a little bit at a time from music related stuff, but from there really just keep hammering out podcasts, spreading the word, and that's really it.
You're getting ready to do the band. We're back again.
It just started recording on its own. I didn't touch anything. All right, this podcast is heating up.
Yeah.
We lost power again because of the heat on our phones, but yeah, as far as the future goes, it's get through this festival, and then from there, just lots of podcasts with great other artists I want to promote or share. That's the main thing.
And when you getting ready to go to the banjo school, do you have any ideas of like what you want to do with that? Are you gonna write your own stuff, or join a band, or?
No, I might jump on stage with some friends that come in town or something, but more or less it's more for me, and I don't plan on trying to create a career or nothing. It's therapeutic to sit there with the banjo and trying to learn a particular tune or a song that you like, and just be a part of it. Maybe jam around some fire with your friends, but other than that, banjo's just more for me. But
this I try to end the podcast with kind of words of wisdom, and we all go through things. We all have ups and downs in life. We have trials that we go through, and regret sometimes, and looking back on some things, we learn lessons from those, and we try to build off of that to make things better. And so I always ask, like, is there any kind of advice or words of wisdom that you could give somebody that's maybe they want to create a podcast, or they want to do a festival, or they want to jump into the industry somehow? Like, what's something you could tell like an up and comer?
I'm by no means a person to get expert advice from, but but being through enough, and now that I'm pushing 40, I've seen enough to know in some areas, and I kind of hinted on it earlier. It's just like, my advice is to dive into something and not try and overanalyze it too much for a learning aspect, to kind of cut that curve down. But one thing I did have struggles with starting the podcast was initially, and it's just my type of personality, really. I try not to be the pushy type, and there's so much going on in the industry. You might be like, hey, I love this artist, I would love to have him on the show, and sometimes that's hard to do if they're fairly popular at the time, or they got management they got to deal with, or whatever. And, you know, my podcast might not be big enough for their time because they're going to be on the late night TV show or whatever, something where they're going to be a mass audience. So, and even at a smaller level than that, when I first started, I had trouble just asking. I would ask or say, put out an email and just kind of let it sit, and nothing would really happen. I really had to kind of start pushing, and I got that basically from a guy that working at the bar at Duke's Indy was like, man, you just got to be on and just keep on. At minimum, they just say no, which is fine. I just would like to know either way, because at first it would just be crickets. You wouldn't know either way.
Yeah.
But it's more or less the advice is just don't give up on something so easily or quick. And you know, maybe sometimes if you feel like you're being annoying to someone to ask them a question, maybe they're just busy or something came up and they forgot. So it's okay to ask again, you know, because I did have problems. And I do owe Sierra a lot of credit for that. Helped open some doors just by saying, hey, she's been on the show. So it worked out in that end. But as far as the festival advice, I'm too new to give any advice. And the market's really flooded with that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. And if I didn't like music as much as I did, I wouldn't mess with it, because it's year round. I'm constantly thinking about it. My wife's involved. We're constantly doing something, spreading the word or drawing up sponsorship packets, you name it. It's very consuming, and you gotta love it to do it. So I will say that. And if you think you're gonna be the guy that just comes in to do it to try and make a bunch of money, that's not you shouldn't go in at all with that aspect, because it is pricey. And behind the scenes, you want to take care of the artist the best you can. You know, everyone's got a budget, but it's a weird balance, because at the same time, if the festival doesn't make money, or at least break even, then it just won't continue. So it's weird.
I think it was John Grace that I interviewed, and he said that basically it takes about 4 or 5 years to even make a profit. Yeah. Even then, it's not really profit, because it goes into the next budget, and so they keep
snowball it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But it's so overall, like, don't give up so easy. Stay persistent.
Yeah, just go after whatever it is you want to tackle, even if you don't have everything in front of you, all the answers right at first, because you'll figure it out. You know,
I think sometimes with artists, especially too, like when you start something new and you don't get an instant feedback, you just assume nobody likes it, or if you send a message,
I could see that. Not being an artist, I could totally see that. I'd be so in my head with that stuff.
It is, man. It can get to you, but it's also something similar when you put an email asking for somebody to be on the podcast. Maybe you don't get an initial response. Maybe they don't come back. But it's like it takes that grit to keep going and be like, it wasn't anything personal. It was just something that in their schedule, their personal thing, their personal life.
Well, and you also got to look at it too. It's not like it's because they don't want to do it because they think you're bad or not doing a good job or whatever. At the end of the day, a lot of the artists I interview, it is their job. It's not like a side gig or something. It's like they make a living. They got to feed their families. They got to do the best they can, especially when they're on the road as much as they are, to do what is going to be the best for them to provide for their family and themselves. So if they have limited time and resources, they're going to spend it in certain areas. I totally get it.
So in conclusion, man, it's been nice having you on, Falling Forward.
Yeah, man, I'm happy to be on. Thank you for the cigar. I'm taking it with me.
Yeah, man. Who's kind of like your dream interview to have on your show?
Ooh, dream.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Living and currently.
Yeah. Living. I don't know. I would love to talk to Tyler Childers. I like Charlie Crockett a lot, with his mindset and his views on music. I think it would be an interesting topic as far as big names. Or I would like to go down with someone like an old legend, like a Ricky Skaggs, right here out of Kentucky. Like, what that man has done is remarkable, and I'm sure he's got stories for days that he could share on there about time spent with Bill Monroe, or all those old stories like that. yeah, I don't really have like a main bucket list, but I would love probably if I had to pick one, it'd be Tyler.
Any of those people would be amazing. Tyler, I think he's kind of he can be hard to get through to,
Yeah.
as far because he's so busy with everything now. But
I got lucky. I was at Healing Appalachia, and just for whatever reason, I had a media pass doing podcast stuff, and I got lucky, and I was behind the scenes, and I caught him back there, and the situation was there's no one around, so we had like a good 10-minute chat, and it wasn't even about music. It was all about the outdoor stuff, the taxidermy, and all that. And I gave him a coyote skull. He thought that was cool, but other than that, yeah.
You got that famous picture of him in Sonora skinning that coyote.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
He got a lot of flack. That's one thing I brought up to him. I was like, man, me being an outdoorsman, and the general public, if they don't live that life or understand it, at first glance, yeah, it kind of seems a little rough. When I first took those beavers, I had to analyze, like, what am I doing here? Like, what is this accomplishing? Something? Is this needed? Or, so once I put all that in perspective, like, okay, this is actually a very important thing. It helps keep the disease spread amongst animals, all that, numbers down. Long story short, but Tyler, he got so much flack for that video of them skinning that coyote. It was a coyote, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And he said it got to the point where he couldn't even keep a simple deer hide on the merch stand without getting hassled.
Yeah.
So it's like, man. It's like everybody wants to hear country music, but they don't want to hear people do country shit.
Country shit. And, and there's people out there still.
Yeah.
Even within these counties right here, it's a daily thing where they live off the land and they keep things simple. And thank God there's still people like that.
Yeah. The world's too fast sometimes. It's great to just, be at home, be in your own element, and do what you got to do to feel somewhat normal.
Yep. Well, thank you for coming on. Make sure if this truck goes by, I don't know how loud that's going to be. Make sure you check out the Coyote Radio show and podcast.
Yes.
All the people he's interviewed, go back and deep dive and share those around. Make sure you subscribe to this channel, Falling Forward. Leave a comment, maybe a cigar you'd like to see us smoke on the next one, or somebody you'd like to see in the shotgun seat. But appreciate you coming out, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks.
Safe travels.
Don't forget, we'll see y'all at Pickin in the Backwoods, August 7th through the 9th. Lance is going to be playing. Bring an instrument. We want this very, community-based atmosphere. So we'll have a jam tent where people come together and jam. We're going to have dance lessons if people want to do like honky-tonk two-step and flat-foot buck dancing on one day. We want it to be interactive and fun, and so come see us.
It's going to be a great time. See y'all.